Akamai International School 2021 graduation. Trustees, directors, principals, teachers, parents, and graduates, welcome. Now I know COVID has really put the brakes on celebration. And here we are recording things, talks, speeches, and it's sort of, it would diminish what you've done in a small way. But let's don't get wrapped up in something that's temporary. Let's move on. You know, EIS, the original school, opened in 1946. It moved to its current location where I'm now sitting, 1957. And this school that you're graduating from has successfully graduated several thousand students before you. Now, this is your day, and I congratulate you. If you graduated from the general education diploma or the college preparation program, I hope you successfully participated and completed some of the advanced placement program, if for no other reason than to challenge yourselves. What's next for you? Have you thought about this? Well, I have it on good report that most of you have, and you actually have university slots already obtained. And those are, the rest of you are waiting for some. You remember when you were a smaller version of what you are now? People would say, oh, what are you going to do when you grow up? Funny to think about now, if you could actually look back 12 years. Think about all the times that people have said that to you. Well, here you are, coming up on a very important time and day in your life. The majority of you, as I said, have already been successfully handed a university slot, but college is not for everyone. Some people look at technical apprenticeships, the family business. Those are certainly other options. Those choices are best left up to you individually, within reason. But up till this decision time, nearly all of these previous decisions, like you going to school, staying 1 year in grade 1, 1 year in grade 2, it isn't grade 10 to spend a lifetime. It's 1 year, right? But so all these decisions previously, they were assigned to you. But now you are partners in decision making and goal setting. Some people follow the crowd and do whatever the majority think. Well, as a psychological term, if you will, called group think. Following whatever society in general dictates everyone should do. I call them sheeple. I'll say that a little bit slower. Sheeple. Sheep people. Because if you don't do this or you don't do that, you're going to be a failure. Fail? Really? Fail at what? Everything? I don't agree. Others strike out on their own, to be their own person, to become a self-made man or woman. The question is, which way are you going? Now, if you haven't done it before, is certainly not too late, but now is the time to choose and do today. I'm going to read a poem to you that, now I'm not big on poems. Poetry wasn't my thing, but I heard this and read it many, many years ago, as you can tell from the white hair. And it struck me as very important. It was some of the choices that I had made some choices in life, and it struck me right there in my heart. So I'm going to read something to you. Written by Robert Frost. The Road Not Taken. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then I took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Now, this struck me because I didn't follow the average path. And I had a favorite uncle that said, oh, you always did things the hard way. Well, I did things a different way. I don't think they were that hard. But that was his choice. Now, you can't follow every path in life. It's not possible. You can't be in many places at once. You can only choose one path. So I'm telling you today, choose wisely. You can do many things in life. I've known people who became doctors, famous writers, famous screenplay writers, and in movies. They did all that themselves. But I'm going to point you to another direction now with a famous football coach, American football coach. His name was Holtz. Now, you may not have heard of him, but let me tell you something about his background. He was a head football coach at the College of William and Mary, North Carolina State University, University of Arkansas, University of Minnesota, University of South Carolina, and most famously at the University of Notre Dame. He was also a coach at the New York Jets. It's no wonder that the Washington Speakers Bureau calls Lou one of the best speakers in the world. Now he says, and I quote, everybody needs four things in life: something to do, someone to love, someone to believe in, and something to hope for. Well, here's his three rules of life. Rule 1, do right. Just do the right thing in everything we do. We've all done dumb things and wish we hadn't done them, but you can't go through life with an albatross around your neck saying, I made a mistake, I made a mistake. Say you're sorry, make amends, and move on. He added, I think it's wrong to be bitter. We all have a reason to be bitter. We've all had injustices done to us by society, friends, but you can't go through life being bitter. We're always blaming someone else. Wherever we are, it's because of the choices we made. Rule 2, do everything to the best of your ability with the time allotted. Lou says, not everybody will be an all-American football player. Well, of course. Not everybody will be on the first team. Not everybody will be great, but everybody can do the best they can with the time allotted. Rule number 3, show people you care. He says, I've seen this rule in action many times. Lou is constantly asking people, how can I help you? How can I assist you? And he means it. He has a deep down burning desire to help people. Lou says he can get by with only 3 rules because the people you meet have 3 basic questions. The first is, can I trust you? So, remember, without trust, there is no relationship, Lou said. Without trust, you don't have a chance. People have to trust you. The only way you can ever get trust is if both sides do the right thing. Second question is, are you committed to excellence? And the third question is, do you care about me? Because caring about people is enabling them to be successful. Think about that. Now, some of the other things. Lou has taught several courses and is a famous speaker, of course. But he has some other rules. Here are his golden rules of leadership. Have you heard of the golden rule of leadership? When it comes to leading teams, Coach Lou Holtz says, do right, do your best, treat others as you want to be treated. Unfortunately, one of the first places where kids hear adults screaming, hollering, and cutting them down is on the athletic field. What if we coached our kids in the manner we would want to be treated? What if we did this not only with our children, but also with our spouses and our employees? How much more valued would we be as leaders? Think about that as you go through your education, further education, if you're going to be a leader in your industry, whether it be a doctor, lawyer, football coach, whatever it may be. So in other words, what if we actually heeded the golden rule? Now I know because you graduated from this school, you know what that is. So it isn't just something we learned in grade school. These are actually Jesus' words. Do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and the prophets, Matthew 7:12. I don't know if I ever thought about the sentence after the golden rule, he says. It declares that if you live life this way, you are living out all that God was trying to convey as he declared his character through the law and as he forecasted his love through the prophets about the coming Messiah. I love how Jesus keeps it so simple. Let's do the same. If you want to prosper in leading a team, in your relationships and interactions with people, and in life in general, do to your fellow humans as you would have them do to you. So, choices, decisions, goal-making. Let's drill down to some of the particulars of your life's choices. So, we're drilling down. Let's move forward to a specific area most humans avoid. Oh, they avoid it like the pandemic plague. But first, a little bit of advice. There are people out there that claim to want to look out for your best interests, and they are very sincere. But remember, and remember this very clearly, they may be sincerely wrong. Moving on. So, you're facing decisions. You need to make goals, but you need to make a decision first. What are you going to do with your life? That's a big project. So, you need to make up your mind. You need to focus. You need to spend some time focusing on what it is you're aiming to do. We can't go around shopping life's choices. It's not, well, someday I'll. It's not a place in the South Pacific to go visit, okay? I'll decide after something happens. I don't know. Fill in the blank. My friends are going to, this is your life, not your friends. Oh, I wish I could if, no. If I only had, we're just making excuses. Excuse on top of excuse. And I'll tell you what that is. Failing to plan is planning your failure. So let me ask you 3 questions. Did God have a plan for creation? Did God have a plan for the flood, for Noah? How about after? Does God have a plan for heaven, for you? Maybe it's 4 questions. Is there a clue in there somewhere? God operates on a plan. I guarantee it. So let's go down and get a little more microscopic. Let's talk about goal setting. You decided what you want to do. You decided a general idea of what you want to do. Someday I want to be an astronaut and go to Mars. Nothing wrong with that. I want to be a doctor. There's a lot of steps along the way. Be an astronaut, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an aeronautical engineer. There's a lot of steps between now and obtaining that goal. So gather your data. Gather advice, but be careful. Don't share your completed goal lists. We'll talk more about that later. Write out your reasons why. Write out your reasoning why. Write it down on paper. This isn't a place for the imagination in the notepad of your brain. Write it down. Talk to people doing what it is that you want to do. Doctors, engineers, astronauts, pastors. Alternatively, read competing documents. Lots of stuff on the internet. Write down the stumbling blocks and what are those issues. Picture yourself succeeding and stumbling along the way. I didn't say it was going to be easy. Then, let's face your fear. What is fear? Well, I've got to give you a better definition than what goes through your brain for 99% of the population. Fear, F-E-A-R. False evidence appearing real. Remember, when you stumble, you fall down, learn something along the way. Pick up your feet. Walk around the rocks. Whatever the case may be. On the screen, you can see a round circle divided up different ways. Some of those divisions will be larger or smaller depending on what you want to put in there, or what time you want to put in your life involved to obtain what it is you want. We'll explain more about that later, but I entitled it Life and Your Decisions. So, let's talk about goal setting and we use two different methods, the SMART and the smarter way. SMART. And you can see it, you can see this on your slide. First of all, again, I didn't say this was going to be easy, and thoughtful people, as do business leaders of Fortune 500 or even 100 companies, sit down and make goals for their company and their personnel, and they review them normally on a monthly basis at minimum. And I suggest you follow along that same successful pattern. So goals, set them down and write them on paper. If you want to transfer them to a computer, that's fine, later. Do 1 month goals and put a date. 6 month goal and a date. 1 year and a date. 5 year and a date. 10 year and a date. And I'm referring to when you obtain the goal, when you reach the goal, do it by that date. And you set the date. You can do a lot more. You can do 20-year goals, lifetime goals, whichever. So here's it in this goal setting tip sheet. You need to distinguish between short-term and long-term goals. Write down all of your goals. And I keep repeating that. Write them down. Keep them secret. SMART stands for specific goals, measurable goals, achievable, relevant, and time-specific goals. So specific goals. The why is probably as important as writing down the goals. Measurable goals. How are you going to measure your progress? Write it down. Is it achievable? Now, don't sell yourself short. A little quick story. When I was 19, I wrote down one of my goals was to be worth $1 million net before I was 40 years old. I achieved that way before I was 40 years old. It's actually a lot easier than you think. However, I sold myself a little short. Gives time to review at the end. We'll get to that in just a moment. But it tells you in this list to tell others about your goal. Be very, very careful. There's an old rule in life about 80-20. 80% of the time, 80% of the people take up most of your time. If you're going to share your goals with anybody, share them with 1% of the 100. Seriously. Because people will put you down. People will laugh at your goals. People will go, what do you know? That's kind of a ridiculous plan. Don't put up with that. Don't tolerate that for a second. Okay, last things on the sheet is anticipate challenges and reward yourself. Set up the reward in advance. I said we talked a little bit about reevaluating. That's the smarter sheet. Smarter is smart from the original first page, and the second page is to evaluate, to determine when you will check on your progress along the way, and then readjust to stay flexible if goals need to change, and they probably will along the way. Because some goals you'll reach really early. Maybe you can tick the box. It might be a tick box exercise, and that's fine. Move on to the next. So we talked about goal setting, and now I've set some goals. On the next slide, you'll see life, and I filled out some of the blocks, and I put on their education, family, profession, business, and money. Now I'm going to talk to you about money a little bit. And the reason I'm going to talk about money is because it's easy. It's one area, as an example, I'm told, and I haven't researched it myself personally, but I've been told that the second most popular topic in the Bible is money. I guess because God knew we were going to get in trouble with it. Einstein loved the concept of compound interest. So you know who Einstein is, the world's most famous scientist. He called it the eighth wonder of the world. And he also is quoted as saying, he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. So the beauty of compound interest is, and I want you to get this because when we look at the next slide, you're going to see a very graphic display of compound interest. The beauty of compound interest is, you see, you work and sweat and struggle making money, and you try to save some. And how can you get money to work for money? I actually like to call that the velocity of money. And it's a very powerful concept, compound interest. So to get the most out of it, number one, reinvest all of your dividends. Number two, invest over the long term. Number three, keep adding money. So the next slide, you'll see that if you contribute $1,307.23, and I did this in dollar terms, okay? If you do that every month for over the next 20 years towards your goal, you will have $1 million in savings. So take a look at the graph very carefully. You'll notice on the bottom axis, it's got years 0 through 20, and your total initial investment compounded is actually 0, because you start with nothing. So it compounds to nothing. Nothing compounds to nothing, of course. But if you were to put in $1,307.23 every month for 20 years, you would end up with nearly $350,000, a little over $250,000. Look at the top line on the X and Y axis, where it goes up, right up to $1 million. Look at the difference between how much you put in and how much you end up with. You end up with $1 million, but you only put in $325,000. The difference is the power of compound interest. So that money was working for you instead of you working for it. It's legal, it makes sense, and what Einstein calls the eighth wonder of the world. Now, there's a way to shorten that time also. Not the compound interest part, unless you find an interest variable that is greater than 10%. I used in the sheet 10%, which means that you need to learn how to invest. Again, it's investing in your education, in yourself, and your future. Please do so. In 20 years from now, or 20 years from when you get your first job, if you're saving your money, you could be a millionaire. Now, the next slide talks about the rule of 72. And the reason I put that in there is so that you know when and how many years it takes to double the money you put in. So if you invested your money, it doesn't matter the amount, how long will it take to double your money at different interest rates along the axis on the left versus the years on the bottom. So, the next two slides, I'll just read them to you. It comes from Holtz. Don't ever promise more than you can deliver, but always deliver more than you promise. Let that sink in for a little bit. Don't promise people the world. It's not going to happen. Second one is don't tell your problems to people. 80% don't care, and the other 20% are glad you have them. Trust me, they are glad you have them. I'm reminded of a saying that I was told long ago. If it is to be, it is up to me. So you decide what you will become and who and what you will do with that. But if you put God at the center and above all else, you will succeed. And the last slide shows you that. I put God in the center because he wants you to be successful. God wants you to be successful. It says so right there in the Bible. Jesus said it very clearly. The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. You can look it up yourself, John 10:10. Again, in summary, I congratulate you on your success in life so far. This is a great beginning. And I wish for you a long, challenging, and worthwhile life in whatever you choose, through the grace of God. Thank you.